Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nerd, and I'm JJK Jr. and this is my co-host,
Dr. Zombra, and also Seth, and I forgot to turn the AC on.
Oh, yeah. I love forgetting to do things.
We're back.
Yeah. I would rub it in, but I forget to turn my sign off like 90%. Or
anyway,
90%.
What do we got today?
We're talking about...
Root beer.
Yeah, root beer.
Oh, wait,
it's
I
great.
have 2 drinks today. I have root beer and Sunny D.
Mix them.
No, thank you.
No, I had a big Chick-fil-A cup of root beer, but I drank it all.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Oh, we're talking about something a little more out there than what we usually talk about, I suppose. But, you know, we've kind of touched on it a little bit.
We're
going to
be
talking...
talking...
Yeah. Because some of you may remember a little while ago we did an episode on collector's editions, I think is what the topic was.
Generally, different versions, not just collectors.
Yeah.
We were talking about, why is there a deluxe edition that literally does nothing?
Yeah. So we had talked about collector's editions and, the value of, collector's items and stuff. And now we're kind of going to delve into that, but not just for gaming. We're going to talk about just collector's items, you know, toys, Funko Pops, Legos, coins, all that kind of stuff. So we got many things to touch on today.
So we're going to be bouncing around on a lot of different aspects, like you said. You know, I have a list. Funko Pops, that's a big one, definitely when you think of stuff like that. But also
Sure.
because we are both nerds, but I am also just hyperfixation nerd. I may or may not have spent multiple hours watching videos and looked at the monetary side of this as well, including statistics and the life cycle of collectible items.
Yeah.
I have problems, I know.
Yeah.
But no,
many
it's going to be good. Yeah, I have a whole little sheet over here, some numbers and stats and things to touch on. So where do you want to start?
Yeah.
I do have something that we can kind of start with, which is just which I kind of mentioned, the life cycle of general pop figure, pop culture items, and kind of way that goes when it comes to monetary value. So when it's actually worthwhile investing. And there's 4 different stages to this. There's stage 1, which is when it's introduced. This can be anywhere between 0 and 10 years. And this can definitely differ. So it can be anywhere between 0 to 2 years, right? Because say that it's a console. Well, that console's going to have a new one, so that new one's going to push it out. So that life cycle, that stage 1's going to be different for different items. Stage 2 is where it then is discontinued, thus the primary market shrinks. There's not going to be as much of that going into the market, so it's going to be a lot of those reused, mint edition type things. You're not going to be getting new ones. Then it's going to go to stage 3, which can go anywhere between 20 and 30 years later. The nostalgia will re-emerge, but this is also where it gets most dangerous when it comes to actual financial collecting, because that's also when mass speculation occurs, because everyone's thinking, oh, this is so cool, everyone's loving this, but is it actually? And then finally, stage 4, the market persists and starts to cool down. The younger generation, or I'm going to say newer generation with the stuff that we're going to talk about, then enters the market, and then this would last anywhere between 0 to 20 years.
That's very complicated.
Primary and secondary markets, we love it. Yeah, I wasn't going to go into this blind. I went into this full throttle.
I was just we're going to talk about some collectibles and stuff, and he's like, yes, I did hours of research, and I'm like, okay, cool. Interesting. I did pull up 2 pages just now. I did pull up some, what's the word? Price charts for
nice.
pop figures and Legos and stuff. So
yeah.
I have some active looks at how certain sets or figures are actively changing on the market and how old they are and stuff like that. So
so
we
that's
should probably actually get into one of these.
Yeah, just something. Where do we want to start?
You know, that's a great question.
Because we have... So, when it comes to collecting editions and items, it can range a lot. And the one video I saw, there's 2 different sides to collecting items. There's historic and nostalgia. You have historic, which would be more stuff like coins. There's actual, important stuff in the general history of, humanity. So, coins, guns, historical documents. they're going to be a lot more important, and that monetary value or just generalness is going to continue, whereas there's nostalgia, which is probably going to be stuff like Legos, right? If we go to 100 years, I can see you guys. We're on face cam this time, and I can see his face, and he is like, you grew up with Lego. So
That's
you
not
have
why
that
I
nostalgic bias. You have that nostalgic bias. You
Hard
do.
disagree.
Legos, toys, all of that. There is nostalgic bias to that.
I never had or even saw pop figures until I was in double digits, and that's when I started collecting them.
But
so there's no factor of nostalgia there, and
but like
I'm
I said,
still
this
getting
is also
into the collecting.
to the financial. There is not nostalgia doesn't necessarily have to mean that, but you have more of a connection to it versus just even if you didn't collect it, there's still a connection there. Like you don't have to have a collection for coins to have value.
That I would agree with. Like emotional
that's kind of where it's
yes,
going.
but I don't think nostalgia is the word
kind of where
for
that goes. What is the definition of nostalgia? Because we talk about it all the time.
It's
I do
like
think this
something
is
that you like reminisce about in the past. I don't know. I'm just winging it there. He's Googling it.
Nostalgia definition: a sentimental longing or wistful attention for the past, typically for a period or place with happy association, or something done or preserved in order to evoke feeling of nostalgia. We love when they use the same word in the definition.
Right. See, I wouldn't call it nostalgia if it's like something from a couple of years ago. Like that, you can't get nostalgic about that yet. It has to be a while ago for you to truly feel nostalgia for it. You might feel like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's cool. I loved that. But it's not truly nostalgia, like that longing feeling, until it's far in the past.
I guess. I mean, it
like
also
if I
just
saw
depends,
a commercial last year and then I see it again this year, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's so nostalgic. I'm going to be like, oh, I remember this commercial. It was cool.
I get what you mean, but it also depends. And there's definitely a range to this as well. Because let's talk about Fortnite, right? For me, I'm going to feel nostalgic on Chapter 1, which isn't that long ago. But that is before, let's say, COVID. Before COVID, that's only 3-4 years ago. But I feel like you can definitely feel nostalgic for times before COVID. Or even like COVID times, right? Like Warzone, Fortnite, like when people were sitting inside and gaming, I definitely feel like you can feel nostalgic for that, even though that's only a few years ago.
Totally.
Anyway, that's completely off topic.
Nerd rant intensifies, guys.
But I definitely do think, maybe not nostalgic, but I think you kind of understand where I'm going with the point. There's like two different sides. So we have stuff like coins, guns, actual things, and then you have other collectibles, which might be like steel books. And I definitely feel like stuff like books. So when I steal books, like movies, right? Because that's more modern. But I feel like books can go modern, but can also go historic and like a limited edition old book, like an old, Great Gatsby. If I had a first edition signed copy, that's going to go on that historic value versus just a cool hardback detail from 2000. So those are the two sides. Do we want to start with one side, talk about some of that stuff, and then move to the other? Talk about a specific
I suppose
thing.
Let's start with historic because I don't have as much to say about that. So
that's fair.
Might as well get that out of the way.
So actually, wait, before we start, let's just talk about some of the stuff that we collect. And then we can get into some of the specifics. So what kind of things do you have a lot of?
Obviously, Legos. I think that's the biggest one that I collect.
Yeah.
I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 shelves in my room. And I have about 27 Lego sets.
Nice.
So I'm out of space on my shelves.
I feel that.
I also have some pop figures floating around. I have some books. I try and buy a version of every book that I've read just to show, like, this is a book that I have read and I liked it. And then I have a bunch of steel books. I'm trying to get a steel book for every game I have because I only buy a physical of a game if I enjoyed it. Same principle, with the books. What else do I collect? I guess, I don't know if it really counts, but, like, Etsy-made trinkets of, like, things that I see in games or knockoff versions of stuff that I would want the literal version of. Like, I have a holocron sitting on my desk from Star Wars from Etsy because, like, I loved the Jedi games, and this is the exact holocron from that game, so have it.
Yeah. So I have a little bit different range. I have kind of like you, books. I have a lot of manga. I try to collect manga. Obviously, you can read it online, but I try to collect, especially for a series like One Piece, I'm trying to collect. Now, this is going to be a really expensive, but by the time it ends, I want to have all of the 3-in-1 books. I want to have all of the box sets. And I would love to have all the original Japanese, not that I'm going to be able to read it, just to have it. So that would be a minimum right now of 330 volumes. I'm also going to try to collect all of the Ghibli steelbooks. I currently have Princess Mononoke, Boy and the Heron, and Porco Rosso, and then all those types of things. I also have a lot of coins from foreign to just antique, like older ones. And then just like other, like kind of like you said, some anime trinkets. Like I got some shot glasses, some cool anime glasses, stuff like that.
One I did forget, I have some Skylanders as well. I have a small Skylanders collection.
Oh man,
I'm saving all
Skylanders. Those are great. I think that's really it. And then I also do have some Funko Pop, some figurines, maybe not too specific franchises. Like Shitty probably sees, like I got some random stuff up here.
Cool.
But yeah. So that's the kind of stuff we have. There's and we're going to be talking a lot more about physical media in this one than games, because we definitely have a lot of stuff that we collect in games, you know, collectibles like Fortnite, right? Like I try to do all the free challenges, all the styles. But we're talking about more of the physical media that can be monetary or cannot be. So like coins, that's going to be more monetary. Some other stuff like your trinkets, you know, some of my glasses, we're probably not going to be making profit on those.
No.
So we can start with coins, because that's really, I think, the only thing I have, like a big historic thing, unless you have anything. The only thing I can really think of would be like the books. But I'm guessing they're not really historic books. They're just fun books that you...
I have Dan TDM's comic that he released years ago.
No. We are not putting... Unless it's signed, which even then I probably wouldn't put his story. So yeah, I've collected a lot of different coins over the years. I haven't gone into it much lately, but I used to even go to antique shows and I'll try to collect it. I have 4 ones here that are pretty cool that are even like sealed-ish. So I have an off-print penny. Those are really cool to find. You can probably find them. They're worth a lot more than you think. I have a V nickel, which is just a older type nickel from the year 1900. I have a buffalo nickel. And then my coolest thing is a $25 coin from the year 1981. Which, honestly, do you think you own anything that's older than that? Just in general, not just coin, just like general antique, like figurine, like anything. I think the only thing I can think of is actually we have a German Bible, original German Bible that my great-grandparents traveled from overseas over to America with. It's the only thing I think of that might be older.
I know. I don't own much. So
I own the screwdriver. Just kidding. Sonic screwdriver. I have multiple. Doctor Who memorabilia. I have a lot of Doctor Who stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's historic stuff. That's gonna be on the shorter side. Now we're getting into the more fun stuff. But I feel like that's an important part because that is a valid collector type thing, and that is a. I feel like that's kind of how
collecting stuff kind of started.
Yeah, with that historic value, you know.
Yeah, people would have coin collections and stuff. I think somewhere in my room here, I still have my state quarter book, which I did finish. So I have all the state quarters, but
actually, I did forget. I wanted to mention this real quick. I wrote down just 2 different years. Have you ever seen like the mint sets that you can buy? Like you can buy the entire for the US. I actually have one from 2004, the year I was born. My parents were planning on buying me one for every year that I was born. That didn't happen. I only have 2004. But I looked up the year 2002 because that's a pretty big year. Both of them are currently averaging around $99 and $95, so around $100. And then I was just interested, 2020. That's a big year, like, historically, right? COVID, all that kind of stuff. It's actually ringing at $49.95, so about half the price. So some random stats. But I know that's a big thing that people can collect, too. Like you said, like, try to collect different types of pennies, quarters, all that kind of stuff. But okay.
Yeah, now we get to get into the nerdy stuff.
Yep. I mean, that's pretty nerdy. That's pretty nerdy. Let's be honest.
That's
Just a
fair.
different
That's
type
fair.
of nerdy.
That's old person nerdy.
I am old.
You are very old.
Anyway, where do you want to start? What kind of, I have Funko Pops here. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with Funko Pops.
What Funko Pops do you have? List them all off the top of
I
your head.
have Cal Kestis. I have Bo-Katan. I have Bo-Katan's sidekick, whatever her name is. I have...
Hey, no
oh,
looking,
gosh.
no looking. Off the top
I
of
have
your
to
head.
roll over. They're behind on my shelf. Hold on. I have the Silkatano. I have... what is that one?
Person.
I have Dr. Octopus. I have the Iron Spider. I have the word was in my head.
I don't know.
It was in my head. It's a clone. It's a stormtrooper, but it's a
Imperial?
Comic-Con one. It's a Comic-Con box,
Comic-Con.
so it's like
Okay.
silver and black and more of a collector one.
Cool. I have
Yeah.
like 3 different Piccolos. I have back here like my main set. I have like 3 different types. I have a live action show, which do you remember which one this is?
What?
My live action Funko Pop. You should know because you're the one that got it.
Oh, I did. Not all the time.
Pregnant Wanda.
Oh,
From
yeah.
WandaVision. I have old school cartoon. I have the classic Heroes of the Universe or Masters of the Universe, He-Man, and then I have a whole bunch of anime from Dragon Ball. Really, so that's really it. I don't have as much as I want to, mostly because JJ knows my room. I don't really have shelf space to like collect stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff I want to. I do have a shelf now, but it's very quickly filling up with manga. I'm already running out of room. So, but yeah. So where do you want to start with that? I just have a few different things. Just let's start off with like, why do we think these are so popular?
I mean, obviously there's the factor of like they're figures of various franchises, right? And
I put that
already
too.
things
Yeah.
that are going to be IP are going to be more, collector worthy. But there's also the fact that Funko runs them for such a short amount of time, right? Each figure is like I think it can't be more than a year that each figure is on sale, and then they will come out with a new version of that character, obviously, because they still want to sell that character, but they move to a different pose, a different outfit, different places the character may be, stuff like that, and they'll change how the box looks, the character, all of that, and that then increases the value of the previous one because that one's no longer on sale, and each scene might have a different meaning to a different person. So all
Plus,
of those definitely go into the value of it.
And like you said, not just like different poses, but it could be like the same franchise, right? But it could be different iterations of that. So I think a good example of that would be comics, right? You have so many different comics. You have the movie franchise, you have the game franchise, you have like these 7 different types of comics for Spider-Man, right? Like they're all Spider-Man, but you have Miles Morales Spider-Man, Spider-Noir, Spider-Ham. They're all Spider-Man, but they're very different. So
So
it
say
has
I'm like a
wide
Spider-Man
range.
fan, it makes it very easy for me to say, well, okay, I'll collect all these Funko Pops of the different Spider-Man or the different suits that I liked, So you have all of those on your shelf, but then here's how Funko gets you is they release another one of that same character or that same suit that you like. You're like, oh, well, I might as well get that one too, so I have that one.
And then you just keep going and it spirals.
Down the hole. Bye-bye financials.
So actually, here's some random trivia. Funko started in 1998 and actually started with bobbleheads.
Is mostly still bobbleheads.
It is mostly, but now the main thing would be Funko Pops, the vinyl, which started in 2010. Fun trivia. So, but that's kind of crazy to me that I feel like this is such an important thing. Like, I remember Funko Pops for years, and to think that it's not even 15 years old at this point. And I think that just shows stuff like this, just the cultural impact that it has on the importance of collecting, I feel like, nowadays. And especially because we also did an episode on like digital versus physical games. And I think that kind of goes into here. There's just people just are falling out of physical collections for just anything anymore. Another one I want to talk a little bit more about, NFTs. Just that is like that. Well, I want to talk about that specifically in a minute. But like just that people are trying to go towards digital, right? Like if we still were collecting stuff like Funko Pop's more popular in 2024, NFTs would have never became a thing. But everything's trying to go digital. But so you said you had a list too of some Funko Pops?
Yeah, so I brought up the site called Pop Price Guide. It basically is a sale point for a bunch of Funko Pops that are on the market, off the market, and it's like, imagine eBay for Funko Pops, kind of.
Yeah.
Except it's a professional seller's market, so it's not like you're hopping on and finding $10 pops. I hop on here and I see the golden Luke Skywalker in a collector's box for $500. You know, you got some like professionally graded like Funko Pop boxes,
we love some graded
sealed
products.
And all those mint conditions, all that good stuff. And you even have a freaking Batman coming with his soda can from like Funko way back in the day. So you got a lot of stuff on here, but like you kind of get to see like how all of these figures are constantly changing in price, and how even some of the newer ones are still selling for a lot simply because demand was high, they sold out quickly, and then they moved on to a different version of the figure. So we have Spider-Punk here from, the newest Spider-Man movie selling for $220, just a basic figure, because it sold out quickly, and then they moved on to another figure, and people wanted that one. So demand for that kind of stuff can be really high.
Yeah. So I just found a list. These are the top 3. Now, these are just from this list. I can assume they can go significantly more. The third one is this Batman Zero version. I'm not sure exactly what kind of version this is. $700. 2 is Leonardo, the turtle. But it's like this bioluminescent type. Like it's glowing orange. It's really weird. $760. And the number 1 was like this Superman Scooby-Doo. And it was $790. Obviously, I know for a fact that I could probably find a Funko that is well over $790. That's just what this list is. But it's also just crazy, just in general, when it comes to stuff like this and cards, right? It's just vinyl. Like the actual physical product is not worth that. Like it's probably how much do you think they're worth? I saw it on average. The average vinyl is $15 to $30. So if we're taking that kind of price on like what the product it sells for versus the
to make it probably only costs them like a couple bucks a figure
at most, like with the box and everything. I'd
say
probably
like $5. And so if they're selling them for $15 to $30, they are making bank on every figure.
They are. Well, I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, you also have all the trying to push it out. That it's like limited edition. Here's the new version. The marketing. Because I have do they do a lot of marketing for like the new versions? Funko. Like I don't see it, but I don't look at like that kind of stuff.
I don't think so.
But like, hey, here's the new version of Leonardo from the new Turtles movie.
Yeah,
you know
I don't think so, but I don't think they have to really.
No, I guess people it's just such a big market that it's free publicity. It's like, hey guys, here's the new one. Go to Comic-Con, get it, or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Funko's a big like physical thing. It's and that's kind of like where I was going for more on the nostalgia side, because who knows what this other than limited edition, who knows what this Leonardo can go for in 10 years. If Turtles dies out in 5 years, I don't think it's going to, but say it did in 5 years, that's going to go down in price. That's just going to be nostalgia. Oh, I like Turtles, so I'm going to spend a lot more on that versus the actual collectability of it.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a big thing I want to try to quickly go into just quickly before we get into some other fun stuff. I feel like especially when it comes to collector editions, they can be so crash and burn sometimes. So I mentioned NFTs. They blew up and they were selling for hundreds of thousands. And do you know where they are now? Screenshots. Bro, if you did NFTs, bro, I'm taking a screenshot and I'm doing it for free. That one's a little bit more ridiculous, but I think a more actual one, legitimately, fidget spinners. I feel like fidget spinners is one of those markets that you can see that everyone pushed into, but then it crashed because there was that it didn't go through that life cycle. It wasn't introduced. It didn't have that demand. It's just, oh, this is kind of cool, and then it died out in a year.
Yeah.
If it went through this life cycle and we took some time, I could legitimately see fidget spinners types having like limited edition like numbers on them or something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, then there's also the companies that try and push into the collector's market where it's like, even collector's editions for video games, they'll try and be like, this is a collector's edition. It comes with this really cool, like, action figure or whatnot. And then they try and push, like, this is a collector's item, and then it just doesn't go quite as well. It's like,
yeah.
It's collector's items is one of those things that kind of has to happen on its own. It can't be pushed into. You can't sell something as a collector's item and expect people to value it as a collector's item. Because obviously, when there's no more to sell of it, yes, it's going to go up in value, but that's just the natural nature of things. Whereas things like Funko Pops or Legos that once they go out, there's still such a high demand for them that people are collecting them in boxes. I've seen pictures and videos of people with like 40 of the same Lego set just in a storage unit, waiting until the price goes up so that they can sell them again. It's kind of crazy how people stockpile this kind of stuff. But
I feel like, again, it can also go like on a different range because I feel like that is most games. An example that I don't think really follows that is the Call of Duty ones. Because it's such a big franchise, we don't do them anymore. But like, the mini fridges, there's actual like supply drops and stuff. I feel like those are marketed and they're like, this is limited edition. And I feel like they're still sought after. Not as much as I'd say even Funko Pops. But compared to some games like the Spider-Man games, like the new ones, I don't think there's really a market, and I'm not seeing a lot of people like, oh, I want the Spider-Man collector figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of, it puts in question, like, are they actually putting out something that people would be interested in buying, or are they just putting out something that brings up the value of this package that they're selling? Like, the action figures and stuff, they're cool. They're posable statues, whatnot. That's cool. But it's not really something that I'm like, I want that. Whereas that mini fridge you're talking about, like, that is something that would be awesome to have. It's a novelty. But it's also
especially
practical
for the franchise.
Exactly. So, say, an Assassin's Creed game that comes out actually has a hidden blade in their collector's edition. That's something that the fans would want to be all over. Whereas the last one for Mirage that came out, it had just, that figure standing on the rubble, whatnot.
Yeah.
It wasn't very impressive, but they sold it as a collector's edition nonetheless so that they could, bring up the price on that.
And I feel like figures in this scenario are also hard just because you can buy so many figures already. Like, I do not have to buy collector's edition in the new One Piece chapter. Like, if there's a collector edition for every One Piece volume and it came with a figure, so what? I can go to Just Press Play down the road and I can buy 50 different One Piece figures. That doesn't really make it, it doesn't feel as limited edition as, say, a ray gun, as, say, night vision goggles from Modern Warfare. Like, there can be cool stuff. It's just, like you said, it's just kind of to bump up the price. It's like, oh, we threw something else in there. It's only actually adding $5 of worth, but we're going to charge you an extra $50 because now it's a collector's edition. Which, I mean, you don't have much figures, right? I know you have some. Are they mostly just from your collector edition game type stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, if you're not counting the Legos, I have, like, maybe 2 or 3 different, like, figures of that kind of type. But, yeah.
Yeah, I have this one Rob Lucci from One Piece, and I just have these 2, like, harder, light things. I don't know what you call them. Like, so I got, like, a fairy, and I got, like, a dragon. They're pretty cool. It's just whatever from Knobles. But I do think it's cool, and I would love, not that I'm going to have the money nor the space, but I would love to get life-size statues of some One Piece characters, like Rono Zero with 3 swords. Actually, my grandpa actually had a Homer Simpson with, like, a apron and stuff. I'd say probably a little shorter than me, like 5'7", 5'5", or something. It was big. But
just random sidetrack because you mentioned it. Pure Arts is actually releasing a half-scale statue of Ezio, one of the huge assassins, and this man's like higher than 5 foot, meaning the statue will probably be at least like 3 foot tall. It's like a big statue.
That is big, yeah.
So, can you guess the price though?
$400.
Higher.
$7.
Higher.
$12.
Higher.
$19.
Higher.
$31.
Lower.
$28.
3,000. $3,000.
Okay, so
for
for
a
like an
half-scale
actual
statue.
life size, for like a 5, 7, 8 foot, I could see 3,000. I feel like 3,000 for a 3-foot statue is a bit much. When I can buy a huge statue from
I
Just
bought
Press Play
my
for like
car
500.
for less.
I can quite literally buy something that is almost the size up to my desk for 500 probably. That's a bit much.
Yeah.
Oh. So, I did mention, fidget spinners, NFTs. I just have a few other things that we can mention before we get to some other specifics. So, just some random facts, like just things that go into collecting editions, or just not just collectibles. So, there's quality levels, right? So, like, it can, like you kind of said, graded, right? Like, when it comes to Pokemon cards, if it's higher quality, if it's not scratched or mint condition, the value can go up. And I feel like a lot of people try to do that with, like, Funko Pops. They try to keep it in the box. I know some people don't. It's kind of whatever. Like I said, Funko Pops, I feel like are really iffy. And in that, like, life cycle, it's still very early to see if it's actually going to go up in value in, like, 30, 40, 50 years. But that kind of goes with that. And then I know the guy that I was watching, he said, were these intended to be collectibles? I feel like a lot of proper collectible things that, like, really go for a lot aren't necessarily always intended to be collectibles. Like Funko Pops, yes, but generally, like, they're not selling $100 coins because there's one of one. Right? So, how do you feel about that point? Just in general, like, figurines, like, they might only make 10. They're not making it because, hey, this is going to go a lot. They're just making 10.
I don't know. It depends on whether or not the company knows what they're doing. Like, obviously, there are some companies that make a little bit of stuff because they only have a little bit of funds or they have to move on to another project. And in that case, then, like, if they blow up on another project afterwards, that definitely becomes a collector's item. And it's not like they were trying to do that,
Yeah.
But if a company knows it's big and knows that anything they put out is going to be high demand and they still only make like 10 of each thing, that's just bad. That's just dumb. Like, yes, yes, it's a collector's item, and yes, you know what you're doing, but at the same time, would it stay a collector's item if you make more? Like, and you're racking up the price just because you know you're only going to make a few of it.
Yeah. And like I said, I just feel like a lot of stuff, like, currently that we have, it's just going to be a really iffy on if it's actually going to be collector's editions versus just, like my Studio Ghibli steelbooks. They might be. I just want my steelbooks. I just love the Studio Ghibli movies, but I'm not buying it to make monetary value out of that. Like, I don't think it's going to go up. And I don't know about Funko. I feel like it's going to be very iffy, and I can totally see it just crashing because there's something else or it goes more digital.
Yeah, no, Funko's been going down. Have you seen that? Like, Funko has actually, just in general as a company, lost a lot of stock over the past few years.
And that's probably because we're just going more towards digital, right? Like, people want digital, like, wallpapers or something. They care more about, like, wallpaper engine than posters, you know? And then finally, just, like, this big point that we can get into this other type of thing, built to be obsolete. Now, that's not to say it's going to get destroyed, but, like, game consoles or something, it's built that something else is going to take over. Not for it to be collectors, it's just, this isn't meant to last. So game consoles, phones, computers, stuff like that. So like an example of that, the NES, and then a secondary point to that, stuff will try to fill its spot. So before we get to the consoles, Star Wars, when that first movie came out, at least from the video, he said the Masters Universe, like toys and stuff, try to take that spot because we weren't sure there was going to be how big Star Wars was going to continue to be after the first one, like way back for like toys and stuff. But I think a more modern example, do you know of the manga / anime My Hero Academia?
No.
You've heard of it. How about Jujutsu Kaisen? Heard of it?
Wait, what's that?
No, like you've heard of it, right?
Seth.
Yes.
Seth.
Yes.
Who do I have a podcast with?
I don't know. Did you actually listen to my anime episode?
Yes, I did.
Good
As
job.
a matter of fact.
But no. So both of those are ending. My Hero's ending August 5th, and Jujutsu Kaisen will be ending by the end of the year. Which isn't that big of a deal, but these are some of the last long-running manga in Shonen Jump. So we're trying to figure out what's going to take that spot. And I feel like that's a lot of things. So an example of this was when the NES was sold out, or like stopped being mass-produced, it wasn't as new. People were moving to either the Sega or the PlayStation 1. People, like, things are going to fill that spot, so that way, in that current time of stuff like collecting, it's not going to be as big. And I want to move into just some consoles, because I feel like that's a pretty interesting point. I know I'm trying to, again, just more for the fun aspect of trying to collect every console. I have a PS1, 3, 4, 5, Xbox mini fridge.
I'm
Nintendo
still
Switch.
jealous. still holding a grudge about the mini fridge.
I have like 3 laptops, most of which are just random crap. I got a PC. But what all consoles does your family have, I should say? Because I know you don't have all of them in your room.
Because of how my family was, they're not very collectors. But we had 2 different Xbox 360s. I think we had an original Xbox way back, like when I was 1. But they got rid of that. One of our 360s broke. We gave the other one to our cousins. We had an Xbox One. That thing was a trooper, I'll tell you what. And then we got a Series X. Technically, I had a Series X before my family did, but that's pish posh.
Yeah.
But eventually, I am going to go back and collect each of the Xbox consoles. Not necessarily their, like, you know, 1X, 1S editions. Just, like, one of every era of console.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to go buy a PS4 Slim and a PS4 Pro. I might just I might try to get a Pro instead of my normal PS4 just to have the better version. But I'm not going to try to collect the white, the black, 2 terabyte, 1 terabyte.
No, that's way too in-depth and would get really pricey really fast. But I think it's good, like, if you are in one of these, like, console communities, like if you're a PlayStation... I'm trying to find a word, snuck fanboy here. What's
user?
Fanatic. There we go.
Fanatic user.
If you're an Xbox or PlayStation fanatic, I think it's, you know, a really cool thing to go back and collect all of those consoles, because then if there's a game you can't play on your modern console, then you can go back to that console, you know, plug it in, get the physical game and play it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, I have a PS4. I could play the new Final Fantasy, like, 7 remake, or there's even just a quote-unquote, like, remaster, which is slightly newer. But there's just something special about playing it on the original controller, original console and stuff. Not just graphically, but just, you know, booting it up. I feel like everyone can relate to that classic PS1, Xbox 360, just older generation boot up sound for whether it's the system or the game. And it's just so nostalgic and just iconic to you if you grew up with that. So I grew up, like, I used to play PS1 games all the time, and I remember booting it up and just hearing that sound. Or, like, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And I just feel like you don't get that when you use a different console. So if I'm booting it up on the PC, it just doesn't feel the same. But I actually have some... So these are very generic averages, but I have the PS1, 2, 3, original Xbox 360, NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii, Game Boy, DS, and 3DS. Some average on the prices of those consoles. So I want you to start... Which generation do you think is going to be more expensive? Like the first, middle, or older?
Of what?
Of like these. So that's Xbox, PlayStation, and
of
Nintendo.
Everything combined?
Just the first generations. The PS1, OG Xbox, NES.
So which of the 3 consoles do I think is most expensive from that era?
Yeah. So for the first generation, second generation, third generation. Ish. Because, like, you know, the PS1 was out before the original Xbox. The PS2 was with the original Xbox. So, yeah, that's why I said ish.
In, like, the oldest era, I think Nintendo stuff is going to be the most expensive, probably.
So, actually, from what I've seen... So, I got my PS1 for, like, $50-$60. So, you can get that pretty cheap. The NES is $170. The OG Xbox I saw, on average, is around $200, actually. So, it looks like a OG Xbox on
I've
average,
seen it $150 at 3 different game stores.
I've seen cheaper too, but this is like just on average. I've seen 300 and I saw 150, so I'm trying to grab the average of all these different just things. So around 200. The second one, PS2, 360, the Super NES, and then we'll throw in the Game Boy. Which one do you think's more?
I don't know. I know Game Boys are high demand, but I feel like that's not going to be the answer.
Nope, you're right there. So is it going to be PS2, 360, or Super NES?
PS2?
PS2 is 170, 360 is 150, the Super NES is 200, and then the Game Boy was 130. That's the original Game Boy. There's Game Boy Color, which I think went for a little cheaper, actually, because I just think because it lasted a little bit longer. And then here's some other random ones. The PS3 is around 130, the N64 is around 120, the GameCube's around 160, the DS is 100, and the 3DS is around 200.
Which all of those are cheaper than their initial retail, but it's weird to see like these things that are technically considered like things you collect are not at a collector's price, which is kind of strange.
It's like a Wii is $70.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
But yeah, no, that's just some random stuff. I think I closed the page. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting because I know when I was going to get my PS1 and stuff and trying to get a Switch, I feel like when it comes to Nintendo, I'm kind of surprised at how cheap some of them are because I feel like Nintendo is the more sought after older generation. People nowadays are going for the PS5, Xbox Series S and X, whereas I feel like people, if you're going for old school, I don't see as many people going for original Xbox or PS1. They're going for a Game Boy, 3DS, like older Nintendo consoles.
Yeah. And I think part of that is because that's really when the nostalgia is hitting people. Like now in today's age where we have all these high graphic stuff, they're thinking back to like when they were a kid and they had a handheld console or they went and bought their NES and blowing the cartridges and all that stuff. That's, I feel like, the prime nostalgia time right now. And granted, like 10, 20 years down the line, that's going to be like our consoles, like the PlayStations and Xboxes. Those are going to be in prime. But right now it is those tiny handhelds or those Nintendos with, you know, joysticks and whatnot, like
the N64 controller, right? Just that really weird, awkward.
Those are in their prime time right now. So those are the ones that are going to be hugely sought after. Like even out in Wisconsin, there was this game store that I had stopped in, and they had a sign on the door like they're buying consoles, but they'll pay extra for any Nintendo consoles that you have. Because, you know, those are the ones that are really selling high right now.
So actually, you said like in like a few years, it's going to be our generation. I actually wonder, how do you think that's going to affect it? Because, right, like I feel like we're getting to the point where we have more generic controllers, where the last few controllers have been the same versus like the original PlayStation, Xbox. But also, again, it's that, like you said, you're blowing the cartridge. If we're going to a full generation where it's all digital, will that feel as nostalgic in the future? Because that's not going to have that same feel of, you know, your discs, your cartridges, your, you know, whatever. Like, Nintendo still has that with even the Switch.
I mean, whereas we still have physicals, and obviously there's digitals and physicals of all of our current consoles. And it's going to be a while, I think, before we get to a point where Series X and PS5 are nostalgic. However, when that does come around, I think there's going to be higher nostalgia for the people that bought the physical console or the consoles with disc drives. I think it's going to be more nostalgic for that group just because those are the group that are, I think, the truest gamers rather than casual gamers. Because if you're a casual gamer, you're not collecting all your favorite games on your shelf. You know, you're probably like buying them on sale digitally.
Game Pass.
So I feel like the people who are truly going to be feeling that nostalgia are the people who had disc drives, who are playing their games physically, you know? So there's still going to be that disc stuff, but I feel like with the next era, we had that disc tray, right? We had, instead of it just drawing it in, we had that disc tray that popped out, And I feel like that's going to be the next thing that hits is like seeing that little flimsy little tray that can easily be broken off.
That's how I felt when I got my
console to
Blu-ray
send
player. That's how I feel about my Blu-ray player. It pops in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta slide it. I gotta pull it out. Then I gotta click the disc in. Oh,
I remember
my gosh.
my dad got so angry at me every time because I would just push it in instead of pressing the button that would make it go back in itself. He'd be like, don't do that. You're going to burn out the motor. And I'm like, still pushing it.
Nah, I'm not ready for when the PS5 is going to be nostalgic.
No, it's going to be wild, though.
Yo, disc trays are retro, dude.
They are. Oh, boy. Anyways, we should probably touch on the behemoth of collectors, which I know you're not, like, big on, but Lego is kind of an important one to bring up here as soon as we are towards the end.
Yeah.
Lego is definitely, like, the king of collecting, at least right now, and I feel like for the past, like, maybe 10 years, it's kind of been in this phase where, yes, Legos are definitely marketed for kids, but they've sort of realized that people collect them.
Lego movie.
So now we have things like the Ultimate Collector series, like Star Wars sets, where it's like $200-$300 set, even higher. There's up to 1,000. But they'll sell them, and they're these massive sets that even come with like stands and stuff that you just put on a shelf. You leave it there.
Yeah,
and they've kind of realized that that's got a market. So now they're selling like dioramas, and they're selling like the same sets with slight changes that now come with like stands and little info cards about them that you just set on a shelf. Basically, things that are more presentable rather than being playable. And now that that's been the case, we have a whole market for kind of resale, kind of like how the Pop Figures has. Like I have a site up right here, Brick Economy, that is basically a stock market for Legos. So like I'm looking here at this Porsche set, the Porsche 911 RSR in turbo, I don't know cars. But it is up by 166% because when it was retail value in 2018, it sold for $30. It is now selling for $80 because people are really trying to get their hands on it. And there's that same principle for a lot of these. Like the Marty McFly brickheads, instead of being $20, they're now $60. That's up 232%. You know, you got the same like stock market stuff for all these collector's items.
And I feel like, especially in a market like that, say the F1 races are coming up, the car stuff might be going up in that around that time. So it all depends on around that time, different products can go up. So if a new Back to the Future movie came out, all the Back to the Future Lego sets are going to go up in price.
Exactly. Same with like Star Wars. Every Star Wars show that comes out, not only are they releasing new sets for that show, but there's an increase in people who want to go back and buy some of the old Star Wars sets. And seeing as they're not on sale, where do they go? They go for resale, you know, that there's going to be that higher price, higher demand, you know. But it's interesting to see how this toy, essentially, that nobody expected to end up being a collector's item is now, like, so crazily into this market.
And that's kind of what I was saying, too. Like, was it intended as it? And like I said, like with Funko Pops and stuff, I just feel like it's too early to really see long-term if it's going to be collectible. I'm still not super sure. But like Lego, I definitely can see it being long-term. And I feel like because it wasn't intended as, hey, we're only going to release 10 of all these Funko Pops every year, it has more of that connection, especially for these older sets, because it wasn't intended. Like, and I'm guessing with how much you like Lego, you've seen all the documentaries on how Lego started.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love watching that because I like history, too. And it's like, it's just crazy to think how he wasn't even original. Like, he took someone else's machine, and now here we are today with, the most profitable toy company?
I think so, yeah.
I know Play-Doh was up there a lot. I feel like Play-Doh could be... I think it's Lego, but if not, top 3, right? Minimum top 3 toy company in the world.
I've seen more people saying to buy Lego than to buy stocks. Because, like, obviously stocks are a great idea, but Lego and how much, like, that goes up in demand. And the fact that you can buy Lego on sale, you can't buy stock on sale.
No, you just buy it down and then you risk it not going up.
Exactly. Whereas Lego, if you buy it on sale, it's at the very least going to go back up to retail. So even if you sell it immediately after buying it, you're still going to be making money.
Yeah.
Whereas if you buy like 3 of them while they're on sale, wait 10 years and then sell them, you're probably making like almost $1,000.
Yeah. That's crazy to feel it. I totally understand that logic though of it being almost more profitable than stock.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to think about a toy.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I did want to touch on one thing you had said a bit ago, though, whether it was intended to be a collectible or not. I had said before, like, collector's editions for games and stuff, having those figures, that's usually what's marketed as, like, the thing to collect from that set. But steelbooks actually became more of collectibles because of those collector's editions. So, like, people these days, instead of buying their collector's editions for those figures and stuff, they're buying it for the steelbook. And that's honestly kind of what I did for Mirage. Is like, yeah, it came with the figure, but I wanted the steelbook because I like collecting steelbooks and I want to have one for all my games. And so there's no other, like, plain sale steelbook out there for this game. It's only in the collector's edition, so I have to buy the collector's edition or spend as much money on just the steelbook after the collector's edition comes out. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's actually where I wanted to go into next, books and movies. I like just like steelbooks, right? Because like I said, I started collecting my steelbooks, some steelbooks. I'm not going to collect the games because I'm going to probably stick to digital, especially with me going to be branching into PC, Xbox, PlayStation. If I want to collect a steelbook, and I see that a lot more, like Merc Music, right? He's a big Call of Duty YouTuber. He played on Xbox some CODs, and he played on PlayStation. Do you know what happened? He'd go back to visit it, and he wouldn't have anything because it's on a different version. So I wouldn't really want to spend money on a game that I might not have any progress on it because I'm going to be playing on my PC. And not every... Nowadays, it's a lot more cross progression, but especially if I'm trying to go for the older ones, if I went to go collect the older Call of Duty steelbooks, I just don't think it'd be worth it. You know, it's harder. Whereas movies aren't going to change. I'm going to keep enjoying Princess Mononoke 10 years in the future. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's definitely like... And I think studios are kind of realizing this as well, is like, I've seen a lot more steelbooks for movies in the past 2 years than I ever have in my life, because they're kind of realizing if we resell movies, but in steelbooks, we can sell them for $40 higher, almost like they're new movies coming out, and people will still buy them. Like, I'm actively looking, like, I really don't like buying plastic cases. Like, I really don't like it because they're not strong at all. No. But I'm gonna buy all the movies I like in plastic cases, and if I see a steelbook out there, I'm gonna get it. Or if I see like a custom made one on Etsy or something, I'm gonna buy that and I'm gonna put my movie in that instead, because the steelbooks are safer and they look better, so why not collect them and make my shelf look nice, you know?
These Ghibli, so here's two. So I have a Ghibli one, and it's like a solid color almost. And then I have this nice one, dude, you can see it. It's the Silent Voice. Like, half of it's a really nice art. The other half is like just a poster or something. It looks so much better than just this clear plastic with like some tape around it, you know, some detail.
But yeah, I told Lexi, like, if I buy a game, I might buy the plastic case, but my goal is to then put that in a steelbook. And so I try and buy the game cheap and then find the steelbook when I can. And I'm doing the same thing with the movies. Like, I just ordered all 3 How to Train Your Dragon movies on disc, and they also come with digital, big bonus there. But I'm going to see if I can't find an actual steelbook to put them in. Like, I know the first movie had a steelbook, but the other 2 didn't, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I'm going to see if I can find a custom one on Etsy or something and put them in there instead.
And you can always, like, with something like that, it could be pretty cool if you collected, like, a big... Because, like, my other one, it has, like, you know, Blu-ray, normal, and bonus features that opens up in 3. It could be cool if you found, like, even if it's plastic, I feel like even that's kind of worth it because it has a bigger aesthetic to it. And then you open up, it's this, and every section is a poster of How to Train Your Dragon or something. That could be pretty cool.
Yeah, like, I've seen the Star Wars movies. I can't remember if it was the original 6 or all 9, but it was essentially a book that you opened up. And each page, while it's probably not good for the discs, it had a slot in the page, and then it was just a poster for that movie, and then a second page for the bonus features and the second disc that went in there. But you just flip through, and you have each double page for each movie with the discs in each slot. It looked like a book that you put on your shelf.
Yeah. Like, that could totally be cool. I would love to have something like that for, like, How to Train Your Dragon. That'd be cool. Or Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
No,
DreamWorks.
DreamWorks, that's true. But I'm trying to think. The only other thing I kind of want to mention with that would maybe be books as well. There's one other thing I want to talk about after that, because I know we both don't really do books much, but I do think it's a market. Like you said, I have a lot of books, but they're mostly just books that I read in school that I enjoyed. Like, I love To Kill a Mockingbird. I thought it was a really good one, so I bought it. I bought it cheap, but I bought it so that way I have access to it. But what I do want to collect, even for books that I don't really necessarily enjoy, is I would love to grab like hardcover or like cool design, like the H.P. Lovecraft, like all those. They have some really cool designs just to fill up a bookshelf type of thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool to see the parallel too between the game and book market, is they both have this similar principle where like you have the cheap version, which is like the plastic case of the soft cover, and then you have the premium version, which is the hardcover steelbook kind of parallel, you know? And then you have things like the box sets, which is the same principle as like ordering a movie or game in like a trilogy, you know? That kind of thing, where it's going to aesthetically look better on your shelf as a set.
Yeah. But neither of us really collect it. But I did want to mention that's one thing that I want to try to. And this kind of goes with manga. Like you said, it's more so just collecting the set of all the Percy Jackson books or all the Harry Potter books, that type of thing. More so than I want to collect the first edition signed copy of every single one.
Yeah.
The last thing, because we don't have too much time, but I do think it is, again, another big market, cards. And more so than just Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, but you have Magic the Gathering, but you also have Marvel stuff. I feel like I've seen a lot in the last few years. Marvel
even
cards.
Disney, just I forget what it was, like Dream something. They have their own cards now for all the Disney characters and whatnot,
and also sport cards. Right, you have your baseball cards and stuff. And I just want to mention that at least. Have you gotten into any of that? I know you played a Disney.
Yeah, not really. I don't have that many cards. I used to have a small collection of Pokemon cards, but I ended up giving that to my brother because he's a big fanatic about Pokemon. So, but yeah, cards were never really my thing, just because I don't like how easily cards can be destroyed.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, that was the main reason I never ended up collecting them. And that on top of the fact that you have to be so passionate about cards to really care about collecting them. So like, right now, the only cards that I would see myself buying is, I think it was Magic the Gathering released an Assassin's Creed line of cards.
What, you don't want the one ring worth $1 million?
No.
But
yeah, no, it's like, they sometimes have value, sometimes it's just a novelty, but like, it's really a split. Like, do I spend all this money on something that I might not even look at down the line? Do I spend all this money for something that I might be able to sell down the line, you know?
Yeah, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering, so I collected for that, but I did when I started buying cards last summer, I bought sleeves before I bought the decks. Because, they are so easy to crumble, especially if you are playing. You can easily just accidentally mash it or something when you're shuffling. So, but I just want to mention that because I do think that's a pretty big market. Obviously, nowhere near as big as, say, Funko Pop. Well, actually, I don't know. Can you tell me a Lego or Funko Pop that sold for $1 million because it was 1-for-1 limited?
A Lego? I mean, Funko Pop, yeah, there's definitely, like, custom, like, very limited ones, but let me see.
For $1 million?
Lego sells for $1 million. Let's see here.
Because I feel like I hear...
$1 million Lego collection.
Because I feel like I've seen so many cards, like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, that one Magic card that sold for $1 million.
I don't think I'm seeing anything that actually, like, one set that sold for $1 million. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. But yeah, no, so I think overall, just people have more Funko Pops, like, as collectors versus that, but I feel like the actual individual value of products, I feel like, is higher on cards. More so for that individual one. But do you guys collect anything? Let us know. Join our Discord. It's going to be linked in the description. Join our Discord.
Come talk in the Discord. Leave a comment on Spotify if you're on Spotify.
Yeah, what do you collect? Do you disagree? Like, do you think some of this is not going to be collectible? Or do you think my $1 coin is going to be worth $1 billion in $1 billion in 7 days?
$1 billion, guys.
In 7 days.
Be crazy.
In 7 days. Infinity investment stock. with that primary
Infinite money hack, real life.
Anyway, also join our Instagram and Twitter at Nerd Rant Podcast. Like I said, hit the bell to be notified when you have more. And with that, I'm Dr. Zombrain.
And I'm Turtle Duck.
And this is a podcast.
Womp womp.